Welcome back to Is Anything Real in Paid Advertising, the show where we torch illusions and name the BS nobody wants to admit. Here's today's hot take. If your leadership model only works for 25-year-old founders with no kids and no obligations, it's not really leadership. It's privilege on parade. Joining me is Yasmine de Aranda, AdWorld veteran turned founder of 360 Angle, who knows firsthand what it means to lead while raising kids, caregiving for a partner with long COVID, and holding it together for aging parents. Yasmine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Adam.
You got it. So I know, Yasmine, you and I both escaped advertising's hamster wheel. Why did you trade ad spend for something deeper with 360 Angle?
I think it was so intentional to just go a step further in to not just dealing with the ads and being on the outskirts of just getting people in. The idea was to really look at the entire go-to-market, so really deep dive more into what marketing meant, what the role of marketing was, both as a function, so being the glue between the departments, between sales, customer success, product within the B2B tech space. But also, I think from a personality perspective, it was important for me to also lead by example and leveraging marketing to do that. So by
Love it.
placing, marketing as the glue between the departments and really creating cultures of being in service to. So being in service to sales, being in service to customer success team, being in service to product meant that marketing could actually do their job better without necessarily burning out by having teams that worked in silos.
Mm. Yeah, that's incredibly powerful from a realization standpoint. And obviously, again, and I know, Yasmine, you're parenting two kids,
Yes.
supporting a husband with long COVID and caring for
Yeah.
parents. That's the real sandwich generation.
Yep.
How would you say
Definitely.
that collides with the glossy leadership myth that we tend to be sold?
I think it's just, I think we get to an age. I mean, I'm in my mid 40s, so definitely the sandwich generation and redefining what that sandwich generation looks like and how many layers can you actually stick
Right.
into, stick into that sandwich just redefines what leadership means, leading with humanity means. And yes, when I say leading and being in service to everyone, it also is about, being able to have the space to build a community around the family to be able to support, me as primary caregiver now
Right.
and primary provider. So the big myth, or what we've seen, at least, on the tech side, is a lot of very young founders who are very privileged in that they were able to raise money, they were able to get people, amazing people behind them, but unfortunately there is a gap in experiences where their reality is that this is their baby, which, one, it shouldn't be their baby. This is not what a baby is. You have to be detached from your business.
Right.
And two, you need to be able to really build a culture of and a safe space. So leadership is not about, having, CEO or CEO or CRO or CMO. I don't care about your title. I
Right.
don't care about your position. What I care about is really empowering teams and the people that you hire intentionally to be able to support them within their journey. So you can't today expect to have someone with 25 years of experience and for that person to not be in that sandwich generation.
Right.
So I think it's just essential to demystify what founders and startups myth is of growth at all cost, at the cost of burning through human capital.
Right.
um, and I think with, I'm not going to say age, but with a bit more wisdom, it's really it's really important to have more clarity on your value system and the principles that define all the decision making that you need to make as a leader and as a founder. So
Yep.
so I think it really goes hand in hand. It's really, I think we're no longer allowed to look down on whether it's male or female that are caregivers.
Right.
We're caregivers to everyone. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The last 3 years have been extremely intense on our family. My kids are now preteens.
Right.
So at the time they weren't. And I still, it's no longer their primary needs um, that I have to care for. It's not
Right.
about, they're able to feed themselves and open the fridge. That's not, but I mean, I need to be there emotionally for them.
Right. Right.
I need to find the space. So my day looks very similar to maybe a founder who's up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the
Mhm.
morning and who just gets going and goes to the gym and goes for a run. And, but I mean, my day starts that early because I want to be able at 3 o'clock when
Yep.
my kids come back from school. I need to be able to be there for them.
Right.
I need, to be able to take my husband to a medical appointment if he has to. Like he's 95% bedbound. So that also has a certain level of realization that I also need to be there for him, both physically and mentally. So
Right.
you're kind of, waltzing through the life and trying um, to surf, the wave as graciously as possible, that wave of life. And it's not
Right.
always easy, but it really does take. Very rare are the companies and organization and startups that actually um, understand that profoundly, not just, that can actually, walk the talk and not
Right.
just talk it. So I initially started moving into, the social impact space, thinking, okay, this is going to be, much better. And turns out it's not any better, because at the end of the day, you still have investors and you're still accountable, and, people will keep on pushing where they can until you're completely out of breath, you're completely exhausted. And the strive for growth and constant growth is just unrealistic. So
Right. Right. Well, and
yeah,
I mean, I think a lot of what we're covering here, Yasmin, a lot of the companies out there, I'm sure that you and I have even worked for in our careers, but we know more junior employees, they get interested because of the perks, right? Whether it's a yoga
totally.
stipend or even a value over the last handful of years of working on personal wellness, right? That's a piece that's gotten tightly
100%.
wound in there.
Yeah.
But it's really about whether whether that counts, if it ignores the human load you mentioned that leaders and employees actually carry. And we've lived with that clash, right? Where you've
Totally.
got 27-year-old founders preaching hustle harder while we've balanced our complex needs as caregivers.
Yeah.
What do you think the blind spot is there that they refuse to see, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally? Is it the lack of lived experience with that? Or is it
um
something about just the headspace that we work in?
I think it's a bit of a mix. And I think it's a lot of it is obviously not understanding firsthand what those deeper responsibilities look like.
Mm.
But I mean, I've worked with amazing founders who were extremely mature and extremely, in the right headspace. But then what happens is you end up being so much pressured because you have financial, strings attached, because there's that pressure from investors and boards and
Yep.
on, so where are we at, and obviously, the startup grind is real. You're in survival mode. So I think that that also brings out not necessarily the best out of people. It really, brings
Yeah.
out the worst out of them. So I think that even if naturally they're inclined to being more attuned, and they're inclined to obviously understanding the needs and having that empathy erodes. So when results are not showing, and it's not necessarily a marketing issue. This is
Right.
where, being able to construct and build teams that are really working together and in alignment together. Um, this is what happens. They end up really they end up really completely stretched thin. And that's it. The only thing that matters is, are we hitting our targets? Are
Right.
we able to tell our investors that, we're gonna just, be able to bring that return on investment? So yeah, it's definitely that growth at all costs is just, dribbling down, and it creates a lot of stress. And then it creates a different type of hiring. They
Right.
end up hiring tactically, so they want tactical, tactical, tactical. And it's like, hang on a second, breathe. Before you have tactics. There needs to be a strategy. There needs to be a business strategy beyond just a marketing strategy. So, you know, they get, I think they get so excited at the idea of tactical, demonstrating that they're moving, because tactics show that they're moving, whereas
Right.
tactics is really probably the noise before defeat at this point. That recruiting juniors, using and leveraging AI, in the wrongest way possible, becomes just like, oh, but we're doing something. So it's like, no, you're not doing anything. Actually, you're just running faster to your death.
Right.
So I think, it really is about finding healthier and creating healthier spaces for everyone to work with. And it really does take a redefinition of what does success mean for everyone in the company.
Right.
So there is the business success, but there is also our individual definition of what success means.
Right. And you've described those to me as, and I think we're aligned in both my coaching and what you do through these 360 angle, but it's about using the tools of self-awareness and emotional intelligence as survival
Completely.
tools and essential in the journey as a leader, the way you lead a company. And it's not,
Totally.
I think you've seen over the last, 20 years of how the tech world has evolved, leaders work to use that, but that needs to drip down. That needs to ripple down across the organization. And
100%.
it
Yeah.
comes down to, caregiving is not just compassion, it truly is equity work, right?
It is. It really is. And it's not just about, there is the component of caregiving, which is, you know, the um, the physical aspect of
Mm,
the cooking, the cleaning. But I mean, this is minute. This is
yeah,
like, you can hire anyone to do that. This is not what caregiving, should look like. So as soon as you start adding stressors to somebody who's a caregiver, it's really hard to show up as your best self every single day and to be there for everyone every single day. It's a struggle. 2 days ago was a struggle. Every day is a struggle.
right,
You're constantly divided for attention. So it really does take a support network around, and it comes with the school friends and the parents of the school friends that
right.
create that safe space. But business is such a huge part of our lives that we should
Yep,
be able to feel safe within a business,
right,
not to have to feel like, they're going to let me go and they're not being transparent about it.
right.
You
Um,
know, yeah.
and I know you and I have spoken also to sort of stay in that business realm a little bit.
Mm.
Accelerators tend to design what they do for kid-free, caregiving-free founders.
Yep.
What do you think we lose there? And I would say there's a spoiler there. It's not just talent, it's wisdom.
Totally, totally. Just the wisdom and I mean, having leaders that are able to create the right spaces for those people to thrive.
Mm,
Ultimately, even if you're hiring a bunch of juniors, in 5 years from now, those young people are going to start aging. They're going to be part of their, the sandwich
yeah,
generation. So by being able to show up and demonstrating that you could, you don't need to be an octopus to be able to handle, everything graciously, but leading and paving the way on what, healthy work environments look like,
mhm,
is so important. So yes, it's beyond the wisdom and the experience. It's also,
yeah,
supporting founders. I mean, I've had the pleasure of working for many years with a junior web developer, and she was awesome. But she had decided to marry outside her caste,
mm,
and she was devastated. And she came to me saying, "That's it. I'm leaving. I'm leaving my family." And I just went. I wasn't prepared for that. You're never prepared for that
right,
as a leader. I was,
right,
it was 10 years ago. And I said, "Are you sure this is really what you want to do? Have you even given your parents an opportunity to speak to you about that?" And she went,
mm,
"No, but they're never going to accept it." And I thought, okay, I mean, my responsibility at this point, and
yep,
I was, she was living in India, I was living in Montreal.
right,
My responsibility as a leader and as a team lead is not to support that. It's to make sure that I'm asking the right questions to guide her decision, so that her decision is not based out of an emotion.
Right.
It's founded on, things that are correct. And then obviously she ended up not leaving the house, and she ended up marrying with the gentleman, having kids, and
Yep.
having her family support that on top of it. So we play a massive, it is our social responsibility.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
beyond, it's our social responsibility to show up and to lead by example.
Right.
Yeah, it's no longer acceptable to just turn our back on everyone because we don't fit the business needs. It's not acceptable.
Right. Right.
um,
And I know that you were able to build community support around your family when crisis hit for you.
sure.
What if workplaces mirrored that instead of hiding behind what I would call either performance or policy binders?
That would be amazing, because then you're able to be there everywhere and show up really properly on every side. So I remember the first thing that I ask the companies and the places that I work with is flexibility. I need
Yep.
flexibility.
Right.
So I think that flexibility is really something that we should be able to trust the employees that we hire, and the contractors that we hire, that it's a relationship that's based on trust
Mhm.
and truth. And we need to be able to trust the people that we hire to do the job. And if flexibility is a key element that is needed for them to be able to strive at work, then let that be it.
Right.
But there's that projection of, well, if I was in her shoes, I wouldn't be able to do all of that. And, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be working. It's like, well, my value add is not sitting in front of my desk 9 to 5.
Right.
It's way
Right.
beyond that.
And it's incredible. This gets in, Yasmin, to the fact that we're all humans and we're adaptable, right? In the
Totally.
situation that we face. What would you
Totally.
say, to kind of tease this out a little bit? What do you think the most underrated skill a leader actually gains from being in that caregiving role is?
Oof. I'd say empathy times a million. Yeah, it's
It's it's almost, I would say it's almost like the true value of how you can operate as a balanced human, right? You
totally,
know?
totally.
And
You,
yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, and you end up, you want to lead from a place of love and not from a place of fear, and then you also realize that by leading out of a place of fear, you never get anything good.
Mm,
um, because you're not fulfilled, you're not out there. So I think that leading with empathy, but really, I mean, defining empathy.
yep.
What does empathy look like? And I mean, as a leader, it is so essential to be able to hold that space and to understand intentionally what other people in your team are going through.
Yep.
um, yeah, I think empathy is probably the biggest. I mean, for me, it's also the basis of marketing, of
Right.
being able to support the entire
Right.
business funnel, so the entire customer
Yep.
funnel and user funnel. It is empathy. It is driven in really understanding so profoundly the people that we serve, so
Yep.
that we delight them, we're able to support them, they're able to do their job. It's the same thing. It's the
Yep.
same thing. Like, we should have enough empathy and have enough humanity to be able to support you know everyone that works to support that customer
Right.
journey.
Right.
um, so yeah, I plenty to unpack there. But
I
yeah, I
mean,
mean,
I have to say that, if you ignore the sandwich generation as a leader, you're not just heartless, you're becoming irrelevant unknowingly or unintentionally even.
yeah, yeah. And I remember, like COVID, before COVID, I used to apologize for having my kids, run to me in the middle of a meeting, and I'd be
Mhm.
like trying, to keep them out of the
Mhm.
screen. And, and they would come and talk to me, and I'd be like, hang on a second. I'm like, I'm on the phone. I don't apologize for that anymore. This is
Right.
life.
Right.
On my deathbed, as my husband has, profoundly tried to shape how I think, because he's been so much part of that growth journey.
Yeah.
It was all about, on your deathbed, is it your customers that are going to say, hey, Yaz, where
Yep.
were you? Or is
Yep.
it going to be your kids?
Right.
So yeah, when I choose to take my kids, when I'm a volunteer at school, so when I choose to do an outing with my daughter because she's going through a huge amount of stress, having to deal with her father not being physically in
Right.
her life on a day-to-day basis, and she needs me to be there and to show up for her.
Right.
I don't give a flying monkey what's happening. Like, trust me that I have buckled my week and that I am still available in case anyone wants
Yep.
me. I'll never be a bottleneck, but I need to take that time off for her.
Right.
And this is no longer, whereas I think years ago I would have, always prioritized business
Yep.
at the detriment of the family. Now it's the opposite.
Right.
The
Right.
priority has shifted. It doesn't
Right.
mean that I'm working any less or any harder. I mean, I've invested, probably more in professional development over the last few years than I did on my university years. So, y- you know, I'm trying like everyone. The intent is there. I'm definitely trying to be and to show up for everyone as best as
Yep.
I can, and realizing that impact and social impact doesn't have to be, at a huge million scale.
Yep.
It starts really at those micro interactions that we have with the people that we crossroads with on the street. Those micro interactions mean that I have an opportunity to show up for those people.
Right.
And, if I'm able to demonstrate that I'm leading out of love and empathy and graciously, then they're able to also realize that they can do the same. And I think that this is the snowball effect that we're trying to get to.
Right.
Impact for me was a big realization. Social impact doesn't have to be millions of people. At least, it's not me with a million, it's me one on one, and then those one on one. And like, I think that this is
Yeah.
such a key element.
Yeah, Yasmin, this is so filled with not just fire, but it's that fire of the need for the balance of heart, right? And that empathy and that
Yeah,
coming from that place of love. We went from ad world detours to caregiving grit to the uncomfortable truth about equity and leadership.
yeah.
Where can folks find you and 360 Angle?
Wow. You can find me definitely on LinkedIn. And you can, so I've got the website up. So it's 360angle.ca. And you can shoot me an email at Yasmine de Aranda at gmail.com. Yeah, I'm really just, whether it's brainstorming for business, brainstorming personally, or just finding an ear to listen. Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. And
Mm,
and finally, Yasmin, for the leader listening who's juggling kids, parents, partners, and bosses who don't get it, what's the
mm.
one move they should or could make this week to start to shift that balance?
Um, I would say sit with yourself and put down what's working for you and what's not working for you, and what does an ideal day and week look like,
Mm,
and what's really missing. I think for me, it was such a realization to say, I can no longer work full time
yep.
for a company. It's just not physically possible to be able to hold everything. But by the same token, you have that huge financial pressure. But nothing is worth. You can't lose yourself. Like, if I collapse, everything around me collapses.
Right.
I'm not in an opportunity. Like, I'm not in a position to do that. So
Right.
sit and understand, what does your day look like, how much can you give. And then again, I think with, the beauty of that sandwich generation is that we've got such an awesome database of problem and solution that it takes us really like a quarter of the time to do something. And just make sure that you're surrounded with the right people,
Right.
and not be afraid of just letting go. It's okay to let go of the people that don't bring you that energy.
Yep.
It's important that we really protect our time, protect our energy, and anything that's too negative, let it go. It's okay. Not gonna. It's not. Nothing is worth it. Um, yeah.
Awesome. I mean, I love talking about energy because that energy is such a big
I
piece of
know.
things.
I
So
know.
Yasmin, I really appreciate this. Well, thanks for tuning into Is Anything Real in Paid
Thank you.
Advertising, the show where we sift signal from the noise and torch the fantasies businesses keep selling. I'm Adam W. Barney, and here's the truth. Leadership that ignores caregiving isn't leadership, it's cosplay. Let's stop pretending and start building equity where it matters most. Yasmine, thank you for joining today, though.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Scaling fast, but who's flying the rocket? If you're a VC-backed founder, 7 to 8 figure operator, or executive team scaling fast but heading toward burnout, I help you rebuild your energy system, reclaim 10 to 20 hours a week, and lead with clarity, stamina, and execution energy. 2 seats open now. DM me recalibration or go to adamwbarney.com to lock in a clarity call. Clarity over chaos, always.